We have to ask you how your outing went. 3 scoreless innings. How are you feeling with how the spring has gone so far?
Feel great so far. Arm feels good, body feels healthy. Ready to go out and win some ball games this year.
One of the things that happened, of course, over the course of the winter was the Cardinals added some veteran pitchers, Sonny Gray, Ryan Swin, and Kyle Gibson. And they said one of the reasons was they wanted kind of those guys to be leaders on the team and to work with some of the younger pitchers. What is something that you think you've already learned from some of those guys so far this spring?
My first day in camp this spring was the first day that Sonny threw his first official bullpen, and I'd say the first thing I learned was just watching him go about his business and how intentional he is. You know, he's out there calling his shots, making sure everybody hears it, making sure there's other people holding him accountable to that, and then following his outing, I was just kind of sitting down on the bench, watching other guys throw, and Sonny came and sat next to me and just started kind of ranting about his stuff and what he likes to do when he pitches, and I got a whole lesson without even asking a question, so that was pretty cool.
And you're used to kind of being around Adam Wainwright. He's kind of the same way, right? He's kind of taking that role onto the team.
Yeah, Wayno was a wealth of information. You know, I felt at a loss for what to ask sometimes because there's so many things you could ask, but you know, I've kind of learned if you just hang around the right people and you watch them go about their business, you probably learn more than if you're asking questions anyways. So, yeah, Wayno's special.
Our other guest has also got a valuable resource that he's been working with this spring, Victor Scott II. I know you've been spending a lot of time with Mr. Willie McGee. What have you kind of found from Willie so far this spring?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody can see me, but I mean, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Willie McGee. He's taught me a lot about just getting reads in the outfield and being present out there. How to really command center field is a big portion of it. But just the guy's got a lot of information. So I mean, picking his brain has been second to none.
The other guy that you've leaned on a lot, I know the last year or so, is Vince Coleman. Another guy who knows something about stealing bases.
Yeah. Vince Coleman does know a little bit about stolen bases. I've been getting some information off of him, though. Just learning how to read pitchers and kind of read the game in that sense. That guy, he's great. He's great at stealing bases. He knows his information. So.
One of the interesting things about Victor last year is he tied for the minor league lead in stolen bases with 94. And we spent some time together in Springfield last year. The best one, I don't want to call it the best story because it wasn't necessarily a great story, but you actually led the league in stolen, and all the minor leagues in stolen bases was 95 until about a week after the season. What happened then?
Yeah. So we good. All right. Yeah, I was actually on the way home, and I had 95 stolen bases, and my best friend, he had 94 stolen bases. So I was looking at my little score card or whatever, and saw that they had deducted one, so that made us tie. And I called him. I was like, his name's Chandler Simpson. I'm like, yeah, man. We ended up tying on stolen bases. And he kind of like grinned at me and started laughing, and I didn't grin. I kind of was like really straight faced, but it was. I mean, it makes the story a little bit more interesting. So it is what it is.
It's an interesting competition between you and Chandler as far as the fact that you played summer ball and travel ball together in college, and then you felt that pressure. He's in the Tampa Bay system, so that's a competition that can be kind of going on for a while now.
Yeah, we competed everything, whether it be ping pong, whether it be bowling. I mean, if he was here right now, he'd probably tell you that he's the better bowler. He's not, but I mean, we competed everything. So it's always good to have a friend with you that's always wants to win, always wants to compete. It's definitely always good to have that kind of chemistry.
And one of the interesting things about Matthew, and I'm sure everybody around here probably is aware of this, but speaking of friendship, he's got a guy on the team that he's known since, 7 years old? 3 years old. Right? 3 years old is when he and Nolan Gorman first became friends. So I remember, I think we talked the night that you got traded. Nolan Gorman was down here playing putt-putt golf in the team bonding thing in the fall league, and you called him and said, you're now teammates. Tell that story.
Yeah, he actually didn't answer my call because mini golf was apparently more important, but he ended up winning, which I gave him a pass for that. You know, coming second, it's not worth it, but if you win, it is. And yeah, he ended up answering on the second call and just said, "You're not going to believe it, we're teammates again." And you know, it was always something that like we joked about growing up. We played for the same club team, played for the same NYS team. Our dad's coached us growing up, and you know, we always kind of joked about it, like, oh, it'd be cool to play in the big leagues on the same team for 20 years together. And then I got traded, and that became a reality. And you know, if you handed me this script 10 years ago and said this is what your life's going to look like, I'd have called you crazy. And it seems like it just keeps getting more crazy every year. So it's definitely been pretty special, and to do it with him has been awesome.
Mike, we're going to take some questions from the audience.
Yeah, well, we're going to take some questions, and if you have some in mind, if I may, just two quick ones, and maybe it's a question you guys have. You know, Cardinals fans are just very connected with the history of the organization, the franchise, and you know, over the past couple of years, hey, we've seen legends like Yachty, Albert Pujols, and then just, you know, last year was Adam Wainwright's season. A question to both of you, one at a time. Who do you really look to in that clubhouse now as that veteran presence, as that leader that, you know, would have been maybe an Albert or a Yadier or an Adam, and who is that this season for the Cardinals?
Easy answer for me. I got two guys that I've kind of looked up to a lot, Nolan Arenado and then Paul Goldschmidt. Asking those guys questions and seeing how they go about their business is unreal. It's unreal. I mean, there's a reason why they have been there for 10, 12 years. Maybe I'm undershooting it, but they've been there for so long, and it's a reason why. Like, kind of the work they go about it, they string guys along, they try to give you as much information as possible, as much as you're willing to take. So those two guys have been super informational.
I completely agree with what he says, and to add on to it, you know, we picked up a lot of guys this offseason that are going to be leaders for us and have been in this game for a long time, but on the younger side of things, I think we have a really promising young core right now, and one of the guys that's really kind of emerged as a young leader for us is Brendan Donovan. You know, the way he goes about his business, we like to call him Charlie also, like he's just always grinding, he's always working hard. You know, he's not super vocal, but he's another one of those guys that if you watch him go about his business, he inspires you because of the way that he does things and the way he carries himself in the clubhouse. And I think he's gained a lot of the respect of the older guys, and because of that has been able to step up as a leader for us. And I think that's going to continue throughout the season this year.
Well, fans, if you remember, who did you meet last year at the spring training bash? Right here, sitting in that seat, Brendan Donovan. So thank you for saying that, gentlemen. I'm going to open it up to questions here. If you have a question, there it is. First come, first serve. First of all, where are you from?
Terre Haute, Indiana.
A big Cardinals fan there? Everyone's Cardinals fans in Indiana, right? Maybe Cubs fans a little bit. Yeah.
My question is for Matthew. A lot of the guys are working on some new pitches this year. Are you working on some, and what is it? How's it going for you?
No new pitches for me this year. Same arsenal that I've always had. I'd say if anything, more sandpaper adjustments within what I already do. You know, I'm not looking to make any one big drastic change. I'm looking to take a well-rounded, holistic approach and refine everything just a little bit, make it a little more consistent, a little sharper, a little better command of it. So yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't say there's any one thing that I'm focusing on. It's a well-rounded, holistic approach to it. Thank you.
Okay. You can ask anything, folks. I mean it. Okay, sir, coming over there. Here we go. Coming in hot. Your name, sir?
Mike.
And where are you from?
Edwardsville, Illinois.
Edwardsville, Illinois. That's Cardinals country. Your question. Here we go.
I want to ask Victor. Saw him lay down a bunt the other day and beat it out, which was just wonderful to see. Is that going to be a strategy you think going forward? Is that something we're going to see more of?
Yeah. So I don't know if y'all are, I'm pretty sure everyone is kind of knows the term whitey ball. And I figured everyone would kind of know that. But that's definitely a part of my game. I know everyone, or the game has kind of changed to home runs and everybody's seeing a long ball, but I can run a little bit, so dropping down the bunt and running, making you guys kind of scoot up to the edge of your seats is kind of what I'm trying to do. So hopefully you guys can see more of that.
Now, when you reference an era like that, you're going to win over some Cardinals fans for sure.
I want to ask Matthew a question. If you're pitching, Victor Scott gets on first base. What do you do?
hope that my timing's good enough that he's not able to pick it up and steal base off me. But you know, at the end of the day, you get somebody on base like that, there's only a certain amount of things you can do, and the rest you kind of just leave up to chance. You know, it's easy when guys get on there slow. You don't have to worry about holding them. You can put all your focus and attention on executing the pitch. Having a guy like Victor Scott over there changes things for you a little bit. You start thinking about things that don't have to do with delivering the pitch or executing, and you know, that little lapse in focus or judgment could be the difference between winning a game and losing a game. So, you know, having threats in multiple areas on the field, whether it be base running, fielding, pitching, offense, you know, I feel like we're pretty well-rounded, and little things like that will add up to be the reasons that we make the playoffs or win a World Series.
Yeah, I can hear that. Okay. Great question so far. Who do I have here?
Mike Kaiser, Omaha, Nebraska. You know why Victor picked 0. Why you pick 52?
Boring story. I'm actually, Sandy Koufax is one of my idols that I watched a lot growing up. Wore 32 my whole life for him. He used to say I wore it for Josh Hamilton when I hit, but I couldn't hit, so that one kind of went out the window pretty quickly. But yeah, 52 just got given to me, and it's kind of stuck.
All right, wait with me one second here. I have with me right now
Veronica Nicholas from Trenton.
Trenton, Illinois. Okay, here we go. Hills Country, your question for Matt Dugan.
What is the biggest advice you'll give a young baseball player?
Great question. Biggest advice you would give a young baseball player?
The biggest advice I would give a young baseball player, I mean, I'm still young, but the biggest advice I would say is just continue working every day. I mean, sometimes the results may not show up, but with baseball, you can line out to somebody and it still be considered a good swing. So I'll just say continue to work every day and continue to just work hard. I mean, it's a very, very hard sport. So the more that you put into it, the more that the baseball gods per se will reward you.
Yeah, just one thing to add on to that. I'd say fall in love with the game first. Make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, or that your kids are doing it for the right reasons. And on top of that, like, be their biggest supporter. This game, like Vic said, is incredibly difficult, and there's a lot of critics and there's a lot of media, and it's very easy to be negative about a bad performance. And for me, growing up, like, my dad was my biggest supporter, my mom was my biggest supporter. It didn't matter if I had a good game or a bad game. They were worried about if I had fun and if I learned something that day. And when you're, you know, 7 through 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, like, a bad game doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. So find a way to fall in love with the game. You make it to the minor leagues, that's when things start mattering. That's when things get tough, it can get lonely, and that love for the game can be what pulls you through those tough times. So, you know, I like to think of falling in love with the game as a foundation, and then you build upon that.
I know, Victor, you got a story too about your dad and he fly balls to you in the outfield, and certain things that would happen if you didn't make the play, right?
Yeah, so the kind of background is my dad was, or he is now, a retired police officer. So if that kind of gives you any idea of who he is. But I was a little kid. I was probably like 7 years old to 10 years old, and he would take me out to like the local park, and he would hit me fly balls that range probably from left field to right field. But as he would hit them, he would say, "Hey man, like, you got to go catch it. No matter how far you are away from the ball, you have to go catch it." I wouldn't come anywhere close. He would drop the bat and tell me to do 50 push-ups. That was the penalty. I would look at my dad and be like, "Hey, I'm nowhere close to the ball. You got to catch it, man. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to catch it." So that was kind of like the principle that he taught me, was just, you know, I mean, I could have easily like given up and be like, "Dad, I don't want to do this anymore." But it was like the competitive nature that, like, look, I'm not going to let my dad beat me, and I guess I continue to carry that over.
Got a great, go ahead, Rob. Got a great question over here, and who am I speaking with?
Dave from Hillsborough, Illinois.
Which question, Dave?
For Victor, I don't know if he can run out of the bag or not, but the other day in an article, he said there's 4 ways to lead off. I like small ball, and I like the 4 ways. Can you let what are the 4 ways?
Yeah, so at least what I've learned, I'm pretty sure I don't know if we have a different 4 ways, but you got 1-way leads off the first, 2-way leads, holding leads, and a defensive lead. Those are like 4 different leads that I know. What are your 4 leads?
yellow, green, and red, and then which is more or less the same thing. Yellow was normal, green was normal, red was back one, and then you went back to the power. Power was when you went back. That one stuff.
I'm definitely gonna write that down.
It's a knowledgeable fan base, let's tell you that much. And right here, I'm with
Mark from St. Peters, Missouri. Question for Victor: who's the second fastest guy on the team?
I'm not sure if I'm the first, but the second guy I would have to say is, oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to go with Mason, and then Jordan is also sneaky fast. So that guy's tall. He's got long legs. He's like a giraffe, man. He can roll.
The thing I was going to say about Victor, and we'll get back to the question, is I think he learned the lessons from his dad pretty well. Winner of the minor league Gold Glove for defensive outfielders last year. So I don't think there were many balls that fell or that he dropped. But some of those lessons paid off. What was the best thing other than supporting you as a fan and as your dad? What did your dad instill in you?
I could go on and on all day about that. He's still teaching me stuff to this day. I'd say the best thing that he ever taught me was a simple quote, and the quote goes, there's two types of people in this world, those that let life happen to them and those that make life happen. It's very simple, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you can either choose to be a victim to your circumstances and allow things to happen to you and say, why me? Or you can take ownership of the things that happen to you and put your next foot forward and keep going and never look back. And so, that's been a valuable lesson to me, especially through the minor leagues or getting sent back and forth between AAA and the big leagues. Like, yeah, there's some uncontrollables and some of it is not in your control and it sucks and it's hard. And like I said before, it can be lonely, but, I can say why me, or I can show up tomorrow and keep working. And, as long as you don't quit, you still have a chance. So, I try and take that advice to heart and put it into practice every day.
got a question. Yeah, right.
Yes, sir. Ken Fry from Wentzville, Missouri. My question is, what role do you see Matt Carpenter taking on as a new addition to the Cardinals this year? And will he be of any help in the clubhouse mentoring area?
Are you asking more on the field or on the field or both? Both. I mean, on the field, we saw what he can do when he's hot. That couple-month stretch that he had with the Yankees, it's still in there for sure. He's a competitor at heart, and I know he has what it takes to win. Off the field, he's already made his presence known in the clubhouse, mentoring guys. I spent 5 innings sitting next to him in the dugout on a day I didn't pitch and talked about sequencing and his approach at the plate and how he'd face me and how I'd face him and what I should throw in certain situations. And again, nothing that I asked for, just struck up an organic conversation. 5 innings later, I look up and we're an hour into our conversation. So, that's a couple weeks into spring training. I'm excited to see how he's able to filter that throughout the course of a year.
It's a long season, and most professional athletes are probably at least good at some other sports. Are there any other sports during a long season, maybe a day off or maybe an off day, that you two take part in? And second part of that question, is there anybody who's a ringer in like a specific sport on the team that are like, wow, that guy can ball or shuffleboard, pickleball, whatever it may be?
I try to play golf on my off days. I'm not very good at it though. Wayno is kind of our ringer, or Mike Maddox, our old pitching coach. He has, I believe it's 8 hole-in-ones and 2 rounds where he's had 2 within 18 holes. So yeah, he was our ringer on the golf course for sure.
Off days, I like to bowl. So I worked at a bowling alley last off season, and I would work like 8-hour shifts there. Afterwards, it'd be like midnight to 1 a.m. and I would just sit there and be rolling games. So now I've taken it up and I'm pretty serious in it now.
How close have you come to 300?
The closest I came to a 300 was this past off season. I was in the 8th frame and I split. So that was pretty bad. I was kind of sad.
All right, questions for biography or picture. I could keep going all day. Here we go, sir. Tell us where you're from.
Larry White from Fenton, Missouri. You had this pitch clock for a couple of years and you guys came through the minor leagues with it. Is it fully accepted now by the players in the major league that you guys can handle it easy? Any problems as a batter being rushed into the box or anything like that?
Great question. Yeah, there's certainly been some nuances with it, some things that we'd like to change about it or modify just a little bit. Me personally, I've never had an issue keeping up with the clock. However, it takes the conductor hat off of our heads. We are no longer the pace setters of the game. So, there are some aspects, some unforeseen things that when it was being implemented, you couldn't have figured out at the time. And we've kind of seen that play out over the course of the last 2 seasons. But, at the end of the day, our job is to go out and win baseball games, and that means without emotions involved. So, this game is about adjustments and adaptations, and that's what we're trying to do as best as we can with all of these rule changes.
I'm gonna touch on like being the batter. It's not too difficult. I'd say the only difficult part about it is if you're batting leadoff of that inning and you're coming from center field. It's pretty difficult to run all the way in, grab everything that you need to get on deck, get your timing down, and then be in the box kind of without needing to catch your breath. So it's a little tough there, but other than that, it speeds up the pace of the game. I'm not sure how the fans like it. I've heard kind of mixed emotions, but as a hitter, me personally, I do enjoy it.
What about the rule limiting how many times they can throw over to first base? Has that been something that's helped you or not?
That has been extremely beneficial. In college it was no rules. They would pick off 5 times, and by that time I was kind of out of breath. But now that they only have 2, it makes it a little bit easier for me. So it makes it definitely a little bit easier to steal bases, and also made the bases bigger. Another added. So. And the trend that is going. Hopefully, it keeps getting easier.
Some of those things aren't working in the favor of the pitchers, are they?
Yeah, depends on who you ask. If Victor Scott's on our team, I love it. If Victor Scott's on the other team, I hate it. But yeah, like I said before, these are inevitable changes that are going to happen, and whether we like it or not, we got to take the field for me every 5 days and go compete with it. So. Whether I like it or not, I got to put my head down and figure out how to deal with it. I haven't mastered the art of that yet, but I think we're all tirelessly working to figure out what the best solution to that is.
One question over here. Brad Lewis from Columbia, Tennessee.
What is a typical day when you're away from Busch Stadium? Life on the road, typical day away from Busch Stadium.
Yeah, so I'll take you from my end of the home series, finish our game, everyone goes in, shower, change, eat, dress up in our suits or our travel jumpsuits, and head to the airport, get on the plane, usually have like some snacks and a meal waiting for us on the plane, fly to our destination, get into our hotel, try and get some food if it's not too late, go to sleep, wake up the next day, we're at the ballpark at noon, 1 o'clock, depending on game time, and roll right into the next series.
All right. Cardinals fans, this is your chance up close and personal with the players. Any more questions? Here we go. Make my way through. Everybody doing the hot dogs at the ballpark.
What's your Kennedy interaction with
Great question. Could be anything in the future, right?
Yeah, probably another inevitable rule change that's coming up, but personally, I'm not a fan of it. I like the art of the game. I like the human element to it. I like, for a pitcher's sake, being able to, expand a corner a little bit if you're working it all day, or you don't get the calls if you're nicking corners and you haven't been there all day. I enjoy that art side to it. But on the flip side, also, there was times in AAA where an umpire made a horrendous call and we were able to challenge it, and the umpire got called out publicly on the field in front of everybody. And so, you know, on some level that holds them accountable too. They're the only party on the field that doesn't know if they made the right call or not. We can go back in, look at the iPads immediately. The hitters can strike out, walk back to the dugout and know exactly where that pitch was. The umpires are complete guesswork, and they are calling games at, you know, 90 to 95% correctness out of 200 something pitches. That's pretty good. So I think there's a balance between a full auto strike zone and the full human element to it. But yeah, there's definitely mixed feelings and reviews from everybody about that stuff.
Victor, you played in the fall league where they have that system.
Yeah. The challenge system, sometimes it can be iffy. It can go 50-50. Sometimes it may be a ball that bounces in front of the plate, but somehow hits the zone. It's kind of unfortunate, but it also works in the favor. I mean, you may be in a 3-2 count, and there may be a pitch that is 2 balls off, and the umpire kind of gets in their stance to ring you up, and you challenge it, and it's a ball, and you get a walk. So in that way, it's definitely beneficial. It can be, like I said, it's 50-50. So however you want to take it, I mean, sometimes it's good for a pitcher, sometimes it's good for the hitter. I mean, it's however you want to take it.
You guys have been very